All right, we were talking about various things. One of those things being sticking your finger up somebody's ass to examine a prostate in a man, and to just for the sheer pleasure of sticking your finger up the ass of a nice girl that you happen to be with and enjoy and have fun with, and she happens to be naked and she's on the bed and she's on all fours, and you're thinking about sticking your dick in one of those holes, one of them, and yeah, the crudeness continues. Because I have no shame, and there's no reason to be, because women and men are sexual beings, and they are that because that's the nature of things. Biological law, rule. If you're born in a human being, you're male or female. And apparently in recent times we've discovered that there's another gender, which is male and female. Well, I've known that for a long time. They're called, what? Morphodites? Anyway, they have both male and female genitals and characteristics, etc. So the baby's born, there's the doctor, and he hands it off to the nurse. He cuts the cord on, takes care of all that business. And he hands it off to the nurse. You have just had a baby boy, a fine, healthy-looking baby boy with a very small pecker. It's there, but it's small. But its eyeballs are as large as it's ever going to get, by the way. A baby comes out and its eyeballs at that point are the same size that baby's eyes will be when that person is, like 90 years old. The eyeballs are still the same size as they were when they popped out of your mom. So, just scientific fact. Seriously. And that's amazing. But the pecker isn't. I mean, when you're popping out of your mom and the doctor looks at you and say, "Oh, let me see. There's a little pecker in some little teeny ball sack. Very small. And in some cases, they're very large by comparison to the rest of the child. Baby." So anyway, or it's the opposite. He says, it's a girl because she's got no pecker and she's got a vagina. Or, a little slit there that says, that's not a pecker, that's a slit. Yep, gonna call this one a girl. And then from then on, that person is officially a boy or a girl, male or female. And yes, I know there are people born with both. I know a guy, she, it. I mean, I'm not saying she's shit, or he is shit. Freaky, to be honest with you, and kind of nuts. Perhaps just a little retarded. Actually true, I think. That's my observation. Anyway, born with parts that were like iffy, and the doctor said, we're going to go with girl. Because apparently his pecker and ball sack were very, very small. And there was also a vagina, maybe. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just curious. I often wondered about that. And I call him the red-headed freak. And I don't mean that so much as an insult as just a term of endearment. But he was kind of a red-headed freak. I don't mean that as a slur. I mean, seriously. I called him that affectionately. No, I didn't really have any affection for him. I mean, I didn't love him, I didn't want to fuck him, I didn't want to stick my finger up his ass. But I did want to see his junk. See, he decided he was a boy, and so he became a boy. And he changed his name from a girly name to a boy name, because his mother called him a girly name until the day she died, and he was a grown person at that point. Right, well, like 20 or so. And he decided, I'm going to start calling myself a boy name. For example, I'll just make up something because I'm not going to tell you his real name. But his mother called him Pussy, all the time. Like, Pussy, come to supper. And she dressed him as a little girl. And I was at his house one time. He wanted me to come up for some reason, like to, check out his plumbing or not his plumbing. I mean the house, because he thought of me as a plumber, and I did do some plumbing in those days. I don't now. I'm kind of retired from that. Don't do it anymore, unless I have to, like on my own house or whatever. So anyway, I was up at his house, and I was in his room, and now I remember now, I was taking photographs of him, like portrait pictures of him and general pictures of him in his living room, because he wanted me to do a portrait of him, because I'm an artist, and he said, "Can you do my portrait?" And I did, "Sure." And I'll take pictures, and then I'll put it on my computer, and then I'll do a digital portrait of you. And they said, "Can you put that on a business card or a calling card?" And I said, "Sure." And I did. And I made him some calling cards, and he was thrilled about that. And basically didn't charge him. Should have, shouldn't I? Because it was work. It was my job. Duh. Part of my job is to make artistic calling cards and so on. I don't do it so much for money. I occasionally do it for people just for fun. Enjoyable. It's like a hobby. Does an artist have a hobby of making art? That's weird. It's a crazy thought. But yeah, we do. Some artists may paint and sculpt and draw, but for fun, they make back scratchers and letter openers and things. Yeah, and walking sticks, which I do. Over there in the corner in the walking stick box stand, there are about a dozen canes that I have made myself, handcrafted, hand-carved, and they're wonderful, beautiful things. Magnificent works of art, and you can use them. You can use them in a utility fashion by using them to help you walk if you've got a lame leg, for example, or the gout or something like that. And they're there, and I will be posting photographs of those to my website and to my art galleries and various other places like fineartamerica.com. All right, so the point is, I had this friend. I ran across a girl that liked me enough to say, "Hey, can we get naked and have sex?" And I said, "Sure." Or it might have been the other way around. And she might have. I'm sure she wouldn't have been there doing it. She wouldn't have been there butt naked, on her hands and knees on a bed, for example, if it wasn't understood that the idea of that was at some point we would have sex. So anyway, poke your finger up my ass or use your finger on my clit and make me come first. I want to have an orgasm with just a finger first. And she did, and we did, and she did, and it was cool. And then I poked her in the ass with my dick. But, sure. That's been a while. Long time ago. Almost long enough ago to call it history. BC or BA. What was it? BA or AD or something. AD, like 44 BC. God. So anyway, some girls I've heard this, and I'm not going to say, but I'm pretty convinced that girls can have an orgasm by being spanked. True. And I know this for a fact. From experience. Okay? So, I'm telling you a lot of information about me that you probably didn't want to know. Too much information, D. But, hey. My radio show. And I didn't twist your arm and force you to listen. So, you got a problem with that? You're that's just unfortunate for you. So anyway, let's just continue that. So the doctors are saying in the how are we going to examine the prostate? Let's just stick our fist up his ass, and then we can just feel around in there with our fingers, all 5 of them, and feel his prostate and kind of grab it in our fist. Grab a handful of prostate. It's about the size of a walnut. It'll fit in your hand, palm of your hand. And then hold it and squeeze it and see, and see what happens. And the guy's dick gets hard. Bang! Up it goes. Well, this isn't very professional, Doc. Okay, and then he does it again. Squeeze. Bang! Up it goes. Wouldn't that be embarrassing if you're in the doctor's office and your pants are down around your knees or ankles and the doctor's sticking his finger up your ass and you're going bang when your dick goes bang like that? Not really long enough for that to happen because the doctors are quick with this finger up the ass thing. I mean, they just stick it out, they're done, and that's it. You know, like about 3 seconds. And then they just declare, your prostate feels fine. And in the meantime, what am I going to do about my dick? It's bang. Yeah, that'd be embarrassing. Particularly if the doctor was a guy, because you're like saying, a guy just made my dick hard. And then there comes a question like, am I gay? And all that stuff. And, it changes your life and you become traumatized and then crazy and eventually suicidal. I'm not gay. Well, but he stuck his finger up my ass and I got a hard on. In a matter of 3 seconds. Amazing. Wish I could do that nowadays. I think probably when I was younger, like in my teens, I could probably get a hard on pretty quick. Like, bing! But maybe not 3 seconds, more like maybe 10 seconds. Not bragging, I'm just making an observation of myself. I'm not ashamed or afraid to tell you things about myself. There are things you will never know because I'm not going to tell you because it's personal and private and perhaps even embarrassing. I'm not going to tell you. You don't need to know. But the question would be there, I suppose, the natural one would be, did I get a hard-on when the doctor stuck his finger up my ass? No. That was probably the last thing on my mind at that point. Like, wow, that's weird. And not that I'm not accustomed to having fingers stuck up my ass. Now, I'm not saying a lot of people have done that. I'm thinking maybe only doctors have done that, which is really sad. I missed out a lot on that. I'm going to stick my finger up your ass, sweetie. A girl talking, not a boy talking, because I'm not gay. Okay? Not gay at all. I can't think of any part of me that's gay, except maybe my hands, because they're small. We were talking about my fingers and hands a while ago. And they're small and dainty, but they're tough. And they can do things. Amazing things, actually. Like one finger on one hand can make a girl have an orgasm. And I'm speaking from experience, and I can tell you for a fact, it can be done. I was going to say, if you don't believe me, ask her. But you can't, because she's not around, and apparently that wasn't enough to keep her attention. She kind of said, like, but I want a man with big hands, with big fingers. All right, fine. Good luck with that. And apparently she found one. Because she went off, she found one, and she got married to him. And they're living happily ever after many, many years, or whatever. So anyway, I wonder if he sticks his finger up her ass and makes her come with one finger. Yeah, I wonder. I'm curious. Insatiable curiosity, and I just like to know things. And the biggest part of knowing things is learning things. The not so much fun part about life is that there are teachers that teach you stuff. And that's not really ideal, and that's not really the way it should be. In public schools, for example, in today's America, public schools, teachers in public schools are more like, not teachers, but indoctrinators. Yeah. Teachers in American public schools are indoctrinators. They don't really teach. Anyhow, the highest ideal when it comes to teaching and learning and getting educated and being educated and getting an education and all those different ways of saying that, the thing is, your job as a person who is not educated and knowledgeable about things is to learn. So if you're going to go to school, go to school with the idea that in your head that you are there to learn something. You're not there to be taught something, particularly bullshit, like as is true in most American public schools. And I think a lot of kids go to school to socialize with other kids because, kids like other kids. I mean, guys go to school because, wow, there are girls there, yeah. And I might get lucky and bonk the cheerleader. I didn't, because cheerleaders were stuck up when I went to school, and they were not interested in a guy that was skinny, who was really brilliant and clever and cute. And yeah, they called me cute sometimes. Gee, just, oh wow. I mean, on one hand, I was like complimented that. Yeah, she thinks I'm cute, awesome. And on the other hand, I'm thinking, I'm not a puppy. What? And unfortunately, it was the latter way that she meant that. Meaning, like, you're a puppy, you're cute as a puppy, but I'm not going to fuck you, and you're not going to fuck me, because I'm like a fucking cheerleader, and I'm only going to fuck football players. Or other jocks, And probably have a little resentment about that, because, like, excuse me, I like you, and I respect you, but I don't want to fuck you. Because that's what 15-year-old boys want. Yes. And if you're a healthy 15-year-old girl, you want to fuck too. Oh, there's a revelation you probably wasn't expecting. As it turns out, girls are just as much interested in sex and boys and fucking and dicks and having their vaginas rubbed and their assholes probed with a finger as boys are. Really. If you didn't know that, you probably were living with your ass stuck up your head. No, your head stuck up your ass. And there's a miraculous feat if that's not. It's like a metaphor, isn't it? Because you just can't get your head up your ass. It's just impossible. Physically impossible. Because your head. Maybe somebody else's head, but not your head. And perhaps the head of a dick. All right. Or a John or a Frank or Bill. I don't want to discriminate here. Think about it. So, okay. Gonna take a break for about a nanosecond, because you'll never know how long I've had this recording paused before I start talking again. It'll sound like nanosecond. Hey, I'm going to take a break. Hi, I'm back. But sometimes I let the recorder run in silence, except for the noising roar of the airplane here in the background. No, I'm not. Maybe I'm on an airplane. Maybe I am over an airplane somewhere over America or South Africa. Hard to tell. I'm not going to spoil that mystery for you. I'm maybe in an airplane over the Atlantic Ocean. Or I could be sitting in my studio at my workstation and the heater is over there running to keep the house warm because it's like cold outside. And I don't want it to be cold inside. So you just have to put up with that noise. For now. Alright, so with that, I'm going to take a break and I'll be back. So I think we should conclude at this point that we have spoken about digital rectal exam and prostate exam and sticking fingers up asses and making girls come with one finger. I have amused you enough for one day. Maybe not. Maybe I can amuse you again with something else. All right. What else could we talk about? Let me think about that for a second or two. All right. I just want to say this. I'm not bragging about my sexual prowess. I'm just not that kind of guy. Now, just because I talk about things that I have done and observed in society and life throughout my many years, almost 7 decades of living and observing and calculating logical conclusions along the way, I may be proud of certain accomplishments and certain experiences that I have had in my life. But I really don't think there's a whole lot to brag about. If I've been good at anything, that should probably be obvious by looking at the results of what it is I did. Works of art. I been making art for over 50 years. I am talented. I am skilled in a variety of artistic venue, paintings, drawings, digital renderings, photography. I write. I write poetry. I write fiction, like short stories, novelize, maybe even a full-length video, maybe even a full-length novel, maybe even a movie script or two here and there. I write porn. I write about the human condition. I express my conclusions of what I see in the world. I analyze, critically analyze, just about everything, actually. That's part of my occupation. I use the word occupation as opposed to my job or my profession because the words job and profession have connotations, and people will define the words as they hear me say them in their own particular way. And sometimes they will interpret a word incorrectly, and they will assume that I meant something that I didn't really mean. So I would like to avoid that confusion. And ironically, they get confused anyway, because most people read, write, and comprehend English to the level of babble, and it's not saying a good thing about them. But we can't all be me, now can we? So the thing is, I like the word occupy or occupation because I actually occupy my time, occupy my life space by doing things. And I do a variety of things, like I just mentioned, paint, draw, make digital renderings from photographs. I enjoy it. I'm good at it. And I have my own style. I have my own uniqueness as a human being first, and as an artist also. I say often that I am a person, as an artist, I express on the human condition. That is to say, I express my calculated logical conclusions and my critical analytic observations of the human condition. And I don't find it necessary to define what the human condition is, because I think that that's fairly obvious. For example, human behavior being what it is, and it is what it is. Human nature or human behavior, human actions, human interactions, human existence is observable. And much more so today with the advent of the discovery, development of the internet. I find the internet to be a great tool for helping me conduct my occupation. My work is much more diverse and much more readily available to the population of the world as a result of the internet. And I'm very happy to be in an age of the internet. And I've lived before the internet, so as opposed to some of the millennials who weren't born until after the common existence of the internet. Before 2000, before 1995, let's say. And as a side note, I think if Leonardo da Vinci had a camera, a digital camera such as we have today, or any kind of camera for that matter, and I'm not saying that he didn't have some crude form of a camera, but if he had a Kodak or a Polaroid or any of those modern day cameras, do you think he would have spent all that time physically drawing and physically painting a portrait, for example? I think not. I think he was a very clever man and a very advanced thinking man, and would have used the tools available to him as he did, and invented a few tools that he used in the creation of art, in whatever form his art took. Whether it be an invention of a weapon or an invention of a style of painting, etc. He was a genius, in my opinion. But if he had access to a camera, digital camera, and computers, I believe he would have used them to his advantage and to his benefit and to his to produce more and better renderings in the art field and so on. Today you can do so much with a computer, and I could easily spend all of my time producing art via a computer. I don't, because I actually like to do some hands-on construction, some physical application of my physical talents, my skills to make things, make stuff. Like I was talking about previously, I make walking sticks or canes, if you prefer, and I hand make them, I handcraft them, I creatively make them. And they're very nice, I think, and I'm proud of them. And they do fall under the heading of creating art, making art. Not my main activity, and of late my main activity has been expressing myself verbally, not visually, by writing and by doing this radio show, for example, because I have the ability to think, to reason, to be logical and rational. And I find a great joy in expressing myself verbally. But the thing that concerns me here is that I might be neglecting the physical application of my skills and talents by neglecting to paint, to draw, to make those physical objects such as canes, letter openers, back scratchers, which I enjoy doing also. But one has to pick one's priorities, and one has to say, what is the most important thing for me to do in my life? And as time goes on and I get older and I realize my time is limited, because we all die eventually, sooner or later. Unfortunately, some people die sooner, others die later, which is fine, good thing. I would like to be able to say that I'm here right now, sitting here, talking to you on the radio broadcast, and that I'm 95 years old and I'm doing well. I'm healthy, I feel good. My mind is still sharp. I'm not suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia, brain damage. But you don't have to be old to suffer from brain damage. You don't have to be 95 years old to be senile. And I know a lot of people have been senile since they were 20. Unfortunately, when people are senile at that age or younger, the chances are they're never going to come out of that, what I call stupor. They're just going to be brain damaged forever. There's no cure for being, well, there's no cure for stupid, for example. Unless you want to cure yourself and desire to be an intelligent, logical, rational human being. Then you might make efforts to accomplish that goal and improve yourself. I don't think most people do, seriously. For example, if you still believe the world is flat, and who does? Honestly, who on this planet, what human being actually believes still today that the world is flat? And who would argue that point? Sadly, there are people that would argue anything, even if it's just not even if it's a no-brainer. It's just like absolutely, obviously true. 2 and 2 is 4 is an obvious truth. If you're over the age of 4, you understand the concept of 4, and you understand the concept that the 4 is made up of other numbers added together. 1 added to 1 added to 1 added to 1. I mean, 4. It's pretty tricky, however, in society today to express yourself without receiving, being on the receiving end of abuse, of the venom and wrath of ignorant people and people who are less enlightened, less educated, less scholarly than others, meaning me, of course. And we have to find a way to deal with them and get along with them, and yet not compromise the principles, and not allow ourselves to sink to that level. And I've been accused of doing that from time to time. Someone says something like, for example, on the internet, Facebook. Somebody posts something, I make a comment which is rational, logical, sound, valid, and usually not my opinion, but rather a logical conclusion or a critical analytic observation of the world around me. And a large world it is. And then someone will argue about that, or attempt to. They will attack me. They will libel, slander, defame me personally in the most crude and disrespectful manner, using words that they don't understand, accusing me of being a kind of person that they think is contemptible and sometimes illegal, criminal, and sometimes they just call me an idiot, which is it's bound to happen. When you have access to the world through the internet and you reach thousands, potentially millions of human beings with your podcast, this one, for example, and others, websites, and so on, and by interacting with people on social media, you're going to find people that are illiterate, and I find that most people are, to some degree. And I guess you would be insulted if you think you're one of those people. You would be offended and probably verbalize that in some fashion. But you would be wrong, of course, because, well, attacking me for delivering you a message from some area, realm of logical truth, it's quite common, and I am the butt of this kind of attack and abuse regularly on the internet, daily, in fact. But that's they're bad, not mine. There's no call for it, and I would like to think that there was a remedy, or at least I had some recourse to deal with these people who are bullies, want to attack people mercilessly, falsely, accusing them of things, and all because they don't understand English language, all because they're illiterate, all because they don't realize that the English language has been bastardized by the mind benders, and I use the word mind benders, and it's a legitimate term. It is, in fact, there are people in this society, America, for example, and other places, that actually attempt to bend the minds of human beings. And it's an overall catchphrase that describes various aspects of human existence and the mind benders' agenda. It's sad that we allow it, but they do exist. They are valid. They are real. They are a danger and a threat to freedom, to humanity, to individuals in the world. I would like to think that they could be reached, that they could be improved, redeemed, saved from this delusional state they exist in. And I'm speaking here of the people, the masses in general, as well as the mind-bender agenda, call it the Matrix. And I suppose there are people who would laugh at me and say that I'm just being silly by calling people mind-benders or calling the government a terrorist organization that is bent on the destruction of America and Americans' freedom by using words like mind-benders and the collective agenda and the Matrix. But the word matrix might mean different things to different people in some sense. In some ways, they might have a different way of describing it, but I think most people understand the concept if they hear the word matrix, that they know what I'm talking about. I would assume that most people understand, and if you watch the movie, The Matrix, then you have a fairly good understanding of what I'm talking about. And it does exist. It's not a fairy tale. It's not a fantasy. It's not just something, a script for a movie. The Matrix does exist. And conspiracies exist. So what I'm getting at here is that the message, in my attempts to deliver the message, to offer up a different way of looking at the world and ourselves, is very often mocked, ridiculed, that I put down, and to some degree oppressed by the government and society in general. And this is probably just the way it's always been. You take a wise person and put him in the masses, in the crowd, and he's going to be ridiculed by somebody. Usually people that are jealous or ignorant or have been brain damaged by the Matrix, the mind benders, society in general. So if we're talking about sexual beings, human beings are sexual human beings, are sexual beings. They are so from the beginning when they're born. We label them male or female, boy or girl. It's common practice. I doubt if you've ever heard or ever heard of a doctor delivering a baby to announce, "It's a human being." But that would be the more logical thing to say. But people are interested in what sex or gender they are and what their children are, because, oh, I wanted a boy, and you have a boy, and you raise him as a boy from day one. And if you have a girl, same thing. But if you have a morphodite, a person who is both male and female as far as genitals are concerned, it presents a dilemma. So as I was talking about my red-headed freak guy, who doesn't talk to me anymore because he was saying things that were totally stupid and obnoxious and disgusting, and he just basically ticked me off, so I basically just ticked him off back, and he hasn't spoken to me since. Been a number of years. He should have known better, but like I said, he's not the brightest light bulb on the block. So if you're going to attack someone for delivering a message, and you do it mercilessly, you do it with such venom and such hatred that it's just practically impossible to have a civilized conversation with you, or them, as the case may be. And I find that disturbing. But the part about that is that if you want to be obnoxious, and apparently most people do, that the internet's a good place for it. You can be obnoxious, and sometimes you can even get away with it. Sometimes you don't get away with it. I think of a case from yesterday where a guy was going to sue somebody for posting a meme on the internet, Twitter, as it were. And I spoke about that yesterday, and I won't repeat myself on that today. So this is coming close to the end of my this segment of the show, and I'm going to end it here. I'm not going to use up my last 3 minutes of the show, and I'm just going to say that I'm D. McClone, and this is Archer Monologues, and have a nice day.